Oyotunji Village, when something happens, we revert back to our traditional history. And we also inclined to revert back to our African experience and history. You know, so you'd be like, yeah, I know them jokers over there. But then also you would go back to your Yoruba culture and say, this particular Odu says this, and when the king Shango was confronted with this, that, and the third, he did Y and Z. And so as we know, history repeats itself. And if you have a kingdom, you're going to go through some of the same things that the other kingdoms went through. And so, again, it just behooves us to study the culture of the Yoruba, because the office of Oba is interwoven directly into Orisha. The Oba is the physical manifestation or the voice of Orisha, because when the Oba speaks at a religious forum, then the priest will come forward and say that the Oba will begin to speak and allow the ancestors to speak through. And all of the rituals and the initiation for installing an Oba are adhered to, so that the Oba is governed and is protected by the ancestors above all. Did I answer your question, my dear? Because I know I can go long.
Yes, you did. Thanks so much, Adefunmi.
Thank you for calling in, Carmen. If you would like to talk His Royal Majesty, you can call 347-934-0126, 347-934-0126, and press the number 1. His Highness, going with that.
Let me just finish up with the EI's question, because in Yoruba culture, the Yoruba will crown a 2-year-old child and have him as the Oba. Of course, he doesn't make any rules or sitting on any meetings, but he is the Oba, and he will be groomed and taken care of until such time he is able to do that work himself. But the Yoruba have a saying. As we study the Yoruba culture, we find that the Oba never dies. They say when the king ascends, many people say, Oba Tuaja. That means the king has gone through the rafters in the roof in the house. And so the person to take the throne after that would be called the Arole. Once the king goes through the rafters, the Arole comes through. And so Oba Tuaja, Arole Tide. The Arole is the person who changes the roof on the house. And so myself, sticking with tradition, when I became Oba of Oyotunji, I changed the roof on my father's sleeping quarters. And so, like I say, the Yoruba believe that the king never dies. And so the king is oftentimes not allowed to expose his age, because if he exposes age, he will be thinking individualistically and be thinking of himself as a person rather than the king being a crown. And so traditionally you would see that the Obas wear a beaded crown. That particular beaded crown is set up so that people do not peer directly into the king's eyes, because oftentimes people will get lost in the individual. But the crown is more pertinent at a religious ceremony. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to add that to it, Osaremi.
Okay. Do you think that there is a need to have a king in America nowadays?
Well, there's just as much need as ever to have a traditional Yoruba king, because you can't have one without the other. It comes with the entire ball game, the whole thing, hot dogs, soda, and everything, potato chips. It comes with it. You know, it all comes with it. And so, if you're going into Yoruba traditional culture, Yoruba religion, ultimately you're going to have to practice the culture. And this is a part of the culture, whichever way you swing it. There's just no other way to swing it. Today, many people in Yoruba land often ask, what do we need the Obas for? What is the purpose of these Obas? All they do is take money from the people, and they do this and you know, all the things we're used to hearing. But at the same time, the Oba holds a special place in the hearts and the minds of the people. And it's interesting that we, as Yoruba Americans, we have to learn those aspects, just like we learned about the divinities. Oftentimes, man will rush and shoot for religion to satisfy his own hunger for something bigger than himself. But then at the end of the day, we have to look inside ourselves for our gods and goddesses. They're deep inside of us. No external Orisha can help anything that's going on internally with you if your Ori is not willing to change. Yes, and so if you practice the tradition, it comes with the territory. And I love my Facebook account because there's been lots of, I have over 600 friends from Nigeria, and I get 3 or 4 a day from Yoruba land, and they just writing in at this awe that there's an American Oba in North America, and they got a village, and they speak Yoruba, they dress Yoruba, they walk Yoruba, they kunle, they tesile, they dobale, lati jeun Yoruba, lati jeun iyon, lati jeun amala, lati jeun iyon, and so they are saying that these people are like us. But no time do we ever mention in my conversations, well, sometimes we do, but hardly we ever do mention religion in our conversations. We're dealing, people write in to His Highness from Nigeria, and they're talking about the culture. They understand that how to greet an Oba. When you see an Oba, they know what to say, And once again, like I say, religion is a thing that people look for to find something higher than themselves and something to be obeisant to or obedient before. But the simple fact remains, or at least how we were taught in school in Oyotunji, was that the culture produced the religion. The religion did not produce the culture. And so, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so that's where we pretty much are. And so it comes with the territory if you are going to practice traditional Yoruba religion. Whether you're Iyalosha at your temple Ile in any particular city, she is your matriarch, and much is the same way. And so the office of Oba breaks down from Oba to Ijoye, which are chiefs, to Oloye, which are like honorary chiefs, and then you have Babas, Yeyes, and then you have Oloko, and you have Aworo, and you have Omode. That's the caste system of Yoruba culture. And without it, a lot of times we would try to implement a European caste system and a European way of conducting business. And then I've also heard people say, well, Kabesi, what if we can just have a freedom village where nobody's in charge, well, nobody's the headmaster and this and the king and the like, which is totally understandable. It's a beautiful way to think. I could understand where the sister was coming from when she expressed herself. But at the same time, you develop that. You do not just have a freedom village overnight, because it's liable to have some of the same problems and issues that we have today. And oftentimes the punishment that we have today it's a byproduct of the people. And so we really have to look close at not just Yoruba culture, but we really have to look close at humanity at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we all bleed the same, and we all have pretty much the same problems and struggles. And so the best way to do it is to unify on common ground and bring forth initiatives and plans of action, and we get the work of the day done. Osaremi?
Okay.
Yes. We get the work of the day done.
Okay. I'm waiting to make sure you were done. Okay.
No, it's always good. It's always good. If I may interject, it's always good, as I learned at a farm convention in Detroit with the Detroit Black Community Food Network, is that when they're speaking, they tell the crowd to interject if something is being said that they didn't agree with or they didn't fully understand, or something that they don't like, interject and put that in there, because our tradition, as they reminded me that day, that our tradition as African descendants is that we have a call and response type of dialogue, just like our music. And so, yes, if you need to interject while I'm speaking, feel free.
Okay. I understand that. Thank you for reminding me. I want to ask you this. There are a lot of, like I said in the beginning of the show, have spoken to people, and they find out, oh, you're from Oyotunji. And I'll be like, oh, you've ever been there before? And they'll be like, no, all I hear is negative things about Oyotunji. I don't think I'll ever go there, blah, 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 blah. What do you say to people who think like that? what do you say to your critics?
Well, I hate to make it sound so simple, but, I have to use another reference point or analogy, is that when in Mexico, when the drug war was going down and American news was splattered with bad news about Mexico, all travel had ceased going to Mexico. All the spring breakers stopped going to Cancun, Tijuana. They stopped going to Juarez, El Paso, and so basically it's a thing that develops in people, the fear factor, and I know that people will conquer that, in that the forebearers of this land were people who came on missions from far lands, and all they was told is that if you go to America or you go to that far-off land, you're going to be eaten by dragons in the middle of the sea. It's typical. And so it's just a fear factor. But everything changes. Oyotunji changes. It goes through periods, just like any community. Oftentimes I see the bad news going on in Savannah, Georgia, of people doing heinous things 100 times the things that may have taken place in my community here. But I still travel to Savannah. I don't have a problem. Savannah is not going to hurt me. It's the particular type of people that I decide to mingle and mix with that could possibly hurt me. And so it's not Oyotunji. It's Oyotunji is 13 acres with many beautiful statues, grasses, gardens, and flowers and trees. But the people who inhabit it may have done something wrong to someone. And so lots of times we just generalize in lots of things, and we say, well, I'm not going back there no more. When 30 of the people were nice and beautiful, you had a good time, one person made your day negative, and so you take that as your remembrance. And that's pretty much how a country such as the U.S. runs, because, we're a word-of-mouth culture. Everybody depends on word of mouth to get their business around. And, if you got good business, word of mouth will get you 2 customers. If you got bad business, word of mouth will alert about 20 people that you have bad business. And so we seek to redo that particular image by inviting people in and oftentimes putting our stories online for people to be a part and feel that they're a part of the community. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to exist. Oyotunji has to continue to exist for the droves of schools, universities, people who driving off the highway, vacationers, black youth coalitions, Habesha, and the like, different organizations to continue to come and have this particular experience. And I just couldn't imagine if Oyotunji didn't exist. I can imagine it. Well, let me go back further. I can imagine it for myself. But then once I think about how all the other people would feel and they wouldn't have this particular outlet, then my day's work is right before me. I continue my job with that understanding that we exist for other people to come in and be a part of the community and sharing its joy, beauty, history, and grandeur. Because everyone who walks through the gate is, of course, walking into a bit of history. Because Oyotunji is such a dynamic concept. And see, we can't get lost in that word Oyotunji. Oyotunji was a name given to a particular institution in a particular land. It's a name. And I know people say, well, it's all in the name. But at the end of the day, Oyotunji is a cultural community. And so that means that all people are invited to come and be a part. Last year we had workshops from different walks of life. We had people from Native American ancestry. We had people from European ancestry. We had people from Asian ancestry all come in and share in the experience of this particular land. But as I said, Oyotunji is much more or less a cultural center today, more than anything, because we offer our buildings and lands to people on the outside who want to come in and do their weddings, who want to have family reunions. And so the experience is still here to be had.